Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. The last few days I have been busy preparing work samples and book logs to send in to our evaluator. In Pennsylvania, we have to have an evaluation. Once a child turns 8, you have to file for them at the school district, and then you have to have an evaluation by a licensed teacher or psychologist, I think it is, and they go over your work. So what I'm actually going to do today is I'm going to share with you the process of me choosing the work samples that I send in, and I'm going to show you what my book log actually looks like. Because there are a lot of misconceptions about the book log, that it has to be not just a book log, but people actually call it like a daily log. And that's what I actually started out doing. I would write down what my kids did every single day, and I would write down what subject was covered, and it would get really monotonous. So when I found out that I was actually over complying and that that wasn't necessary, I was really happy, because that would sometimes take me like 2 hours a night. So I'm going to show you what a book log actually looks like. And I just want you to keep in mind though that evaluators are different. A lot of times they have different expectations. So you have to keep that in mind when you're preparing your samples and everything. I have a really relaxed evaluator. She actually leans towards unschooling, and she only expects what the law requires and not an iota more. And I love that about her. And actually, I'm also going to point out that what I do is called a distance evaluation. Rather than going to her house and taking the kids there, because she lives about an hour away, I just send everything to her through the email, and she will then call the kids and interview them over the phone. So anyway, since someone requested, again, to see how I do this process, don't expect anything elaborate, because if you've been here before, you know that with me having 11 kids, it has really necessitated simplicity in my life. And that really goes through in everything, including how I get ready for evaluations. But if you want a little glimpse into how I do this, let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my daughter London's books kind of just scattered on the floor right now. And what I'm going to do is just choose some samples to send into her evaluator. I can't guarantee that my kids are not going to come running in and out of the house every now and then, like now, because I've got kids out in the pool. So we'll see how this goes, but I'm going to get started picking her samples. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to point out is that we do distance evaluations, which means that I choose some samples for each of my kids and give their book list, or they also call it a book log, and I send all of that through email to our evaluator. And then what happens is she gives us a call, and then she will interview the kids over the phone for their actual evaluation. So I don't compile one huge portfolio for each of my kids, which I used to do when we did in-person evaluations. But the notebooks that we work on throughout the year really do, they are like portfolios in themselves. So all that I do is I will just page through their notebooks. I'm hoping that I can do this so that you can see. And I will find something that I think would be a good fit to send to the evaluator. So what I usually try to do is I usually try to do something that is representative of their work throughout the year. If it's something that's really messy and they made a lot of mistakes on, I tend not to send that in, but I do send in realistic things. You know, sometimes the samples that I send in might have a mistake or two, but I think that it's important to show that they've made progress throughout the year. So that's one way to do that, is by showing that, yes, sometimes they do make mistakes, but they eventually get fixed. Another thing is that I do try to send in a sample of each subject. For example, this is history. This is a notebooking page about Massasoit. So I am going to send that in. And the way that I do that is I will just take a picture of this, and I will send it to her eventually once I have all of the other pictures done. And that is really all that we do, or all that I do, to get these samples together. So we've got that. Now, I know that I want to send this one in, and a lot of times I will look through and see if there's anything else that catches my eye that I would really like to send. Now, I could possibly take a picture of This one shows that she's done vocabulary for this, and that could also be spelling. So that one is another one that I'm going to take a picture of and send to her. Now, I do want to point out that every evaluator is different. Our evaluator is very laid back, and she does not ask for more than the law requires. So she is not going to expect, you know, like 50 samples for each kid. She really leaves it up to us for what we send in to her. So I really only usually send in just a few samples for each child, and she's perfectly happy with that. So yeah, so I'm only going to do 2 samples from that notebook in particular because she has so many others. So right here is her nature study notebook, and right here we've got cloud observations. So we could possibly do that. Now, nature study we really just started doing at the very end of the year, and most of her nature study she spent doing her cloud observations. So that's another one that I will take a picture of the cloud observations. That's science, and send that in. And that's really all that I do. I just keep going through all of her notebooks and just finding representative samples. Now right here, now this is, I don't know how well you can see this, but it doesn't really matter. This is just her notebook from when she was still doing Life of Fred. We did start out the year with Life of Fred. So for math, what I usually try to do is send in a sample from the beginning of the year and one from the end of the year, again, to show progress. Now she did start with Life of Fred. So I'm going to use this page right here and just take a picture of that to send to show what she was doing at the beginning of the year. And yes, we did start on chapter 13 because with Life of Fred, you just kind of keep going. You don't have to finish a book in 1 year. So we started this year with chapter 13. Now, since she finished with CTC Math, that end of the year sample, I'm actually going to just send a PDF from, because CTC Math is an online math program. So I'll send a PDF of her results from that. So that's how I'm going to do the end of the year for that. Now this is her spelling book. Yeah, all of our notebooks are a mess, but this is her spelling notebook. And I'm actually not going to send any samples in from spelling simply because we already have that glossary sample, and I try to keep this as simple as possible because, you know, my evaluator, she's busy like I am. She's got 11 kids. She's actually expecting her 12th. So I know that she doesn't have time to look through 50 samples for every single kid that she has. So now this Earth notebook that I'm doing next, it can be tricky when you do notebooking and you don't separate the years. And I'm finding that out now because some of this stuff we actually did last year. And I didn't separate anything to know where to start, where we started off this year. So actually though, she does have a weather chart. So I know that we started weather today. So what I can do is I can just find something in the weather section. So right here, she talks about what weather is. So I might take a picture of that. Here, she did copy work of a weather poem, Fog by Carl Sandburg. And then she did a chalk pastel drawing to illustrate that. So I'll take a picture of that because right there you're sending in literature and art. So we've got that covered. So we're going to take a picture of this one. Oh, there's some more artwork. Sometimes it's so hard to pick. But I think I'm going to send in the one with the poem by Carl Sandburg, just because that has the copywork on it too. So again, yeah, it's just a matter of finding what you want to send into your evaluator. So I'm going to take a picture of this one then, and I think I'll just take a picture of this one here, just because it shows the definitions for the weather. And what you send in is entirely up to you. So I'm actually not going to take any pictures or send in any samples of her copywork book just because, you know, that's just representative mainly of language arts. And we've already got several samples of language arts being sent in. And she will get some writing samples sent in right now through her animal notebook. And again, this is another one that we did not separate from last year. She started it last year. So I kind of have to find the ones that I know she did this year. Like I know she did elephants because right there it says September 7th, 2017. So I know that this was around the start of the year because although we start in July, I don't know how much notebooking she did over the summer because there's so many outside activities that we do. I do see that she spelled elephants wrong at the top there. So I'm going to address that with her. But anyway, so I think that, let me see. Oh, actually, there's July 24th. She just didn't have it in order. Okay, so I will send in that one because that one shows the beginning of the year that she wrote down some elephant facts. So I will send that one in. And let me see. We've got gorillas here. I might actually send in the one of the gorillas too, just because it shows all the kingdoms and phylums and class. And I just like to give, you know, a good glimpse of what we've been doing. Let me see. That's just... I'm trying to find a good story that she wrote, and I just realized that I don't have her journal here, and that's where she usually writes her stories at. So I will go back and find her journal and send in some samples. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm doing a video, okay? Hold on. Just get a towel. Okay, and so I'm just going to go back and find her journal. But anyway, yes, that's all that I do to to send in the samples. I just pick ones that I think that I want to send in, and I email them to her. I take pictures and email them to her. So the next thing that I will show you is just our book log and the attendance, which is super simple with my evaluator. I absolutely love her. So I will get started with the book log next. Okay, so this is my book log, and according to the Pennsylvania homeschool law, you have to keep a book log for your children, and different evaluators interpret that differently. I know that in the past I've had evaluators who have actually wanted more than just a book log, where they wanted you to actually write down what your kids did every day and what subjects were covered, and that's not actually what the law requires. The law requires a book log, and this is how I keep it. And my evaluator is perfectly happy with that. So this is something else that I will be sending in to her. And another thing that I want to point out, in the email that I send to her for the attendance, all I have to put down is that I attest that my children, or I could say her name, have been homeschooled for 180 days this year. And that's it. She accepts that as proof of attendance. Now, if my daughter would have needed to take the standardized test, I would also have downloaded that and sent that to the evaluator also. But really, that is all that I do. So all of those samples that I showed you earlier, and this book log, and just a statement that we homeschooled for 180 days, that is all that I need to send to my evaluator. And then once she gets the samples for all of the kids, she gives us a call and she interviews them over the phone. She just asks them questions like, you know, what was your favorite book? What's your favorite subject? What were some field trips that you took? Do you know what you want to be when you grow up? Those sorts of things. It's all very laid back, which is, again, I can't say enough how much I love her. Anyway, so that's it. Now, I know that a lot of people will actually do the in-person evaluations, and they'll actually compile a portfolio. So next week I've decided that I'm going to, well, okay, I'm going to say next week, but no guarantee in this house. But anyway, I will do a video that shows our old portfolios, and I'll give you a glimpse into how we actually compiled that. So I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love if you would do that. And I hope you have a great day.